The reality show Poly Family begins like a love story, but quickly shows itself to be something much more complicated. It is about two couples who decide to merge their lives together and share marriages, parenting, and even intimacy. The network. Behind this is TLC, and the moment you hear that name, alarm bells should already start ringing because TLC has a history of packaging family lives into entertainment that millions watch and then shaping those stories through heavy editing into something more dramatic, more scandalous, and often more damaging than reality ever was. TLC gave us Honey Boo Boo, John and Kate, plus 819 Kids and Counting, and many more shows where real people were turned into characters for profit. So, when you see Poly Family on TLC, it is hard not to feel suspicion about how much is real and how much has been manufactured for the cameras. The show introduces Alicia and Tyler, who have been married for over a decade. They describe their years together as glorious. Then there is Tay and Sean, another married pair together. These four people form what they call a closed quad, meaning the four of them are romantically and emotionally connected and do not seek partners outside this arrangement. The show highlights that this kind of setup is rare and therefore interesting enough for reality television. But the editing quickly begins to draw lines about who is good, who is bad, who is sympathetic, and who is not, instead of letting the viewers simply meet a family living differently. The editing chooses to paint Ta as the victim, Sean as the villain, Alicia as someone who may not be happy in the arrangement, and Tyler as the good guy. The problem is that viewers cannot know if this is the truth about them or simply the product of editors sitting in a dark room with thousands of hours of footage. To understand this better, you have to know how reality television is shaped behind the scenes. Editors are not neutral. They are given character Bibles by producers that describe each cast member in terms of archetypes. This one is the victim, this one is the sweetheart, this one is the troublemaker, this one is the villain. Once those roles are assigned, editors comb through hours of footage searching for moments that confirm those archetypes. If Tay is supposed to be the victim every time she looks sad or tired or defeated, those clips are saved and used. If Sean is the villain every time he looks frustrated, every time he raises his voice, every time he leaves a room too quickly, those clips are saved and cut together with dramatic music to make him look worse. Never mind if other people argued more or if the situation was harmless in reality, the edit will show Sean storming off while tense music plays, and reaction shots from other cast members are spliced in, even if those reactions were filmed on a different day. This is where something called frankenbiting comes in. Editors can take different pieces of sentences, cut them together, and make someone say something they never actually said. For example, Ta once said they were hoping it was a phase. They have been incredibly supportive. They are family to all of us. An editor can cut that into, they were hoping it was a phase. They are not my family anymore. Suddenly a supportive comment becomes a rejection. Suddenly drama exists where there was none. The voice may sound slightly off the rhythm, may feel choppy, but viewers at home rarely notice because music and B-roll cover the seams. So when you watch Poly Family or any reality show, listen for sentences that sound oddly stiff, oddly edited, or too perfect, because chances are they were built in the editing room, not spoken in real life beyond editing. There are tricks like the Kuleshov effect, a famous lesson from film history, where you show a man's face, then a shot of a baby, then back to the man's face, and he looks kind and gentle, but replace the baby with a bikini girl and suddenly the same man looks creepy. The meaning comes from the order of the shots, not from the shots themselves. Reality editors use this constantly in Poly Family. Alicia can be shown looking thoughtful, and if the cut right before it shows Sean walking out, suddenly she looks angry at him. But if the cut shows the playing with the baby, suddenly Alicia looks jealous and left out. Her face is the same. The order of images changes everything. And then there are the interviews. What audiences may not realize is that all those polished interviews are filmed long after the events, sometimes months later, and often in the exact same clothes, so they can be moved around between episodes. You think you are watching a direct reaction to something that happened in the moment, but really you are watching a heavily produced sentence filmed under the guidance of a producer. Producers prompt people to speak in complete sound bites. Like, "I did not sleep well last night because my husband got a call from his girlfriend and it upset me," instead of just saying, "I did not sleep well." The longer sentences are easier to cut and rearrange, and producers can suggest feelings or conflicts by planting ideas, gently pushing people to say lines that fit the narrative. Poly Family even included scenes about jealousy and questions of paternity. One moment shows Sean tenderly holding the baby, then cuts to Tyler bragging about intimacy with Dub. The edit makes Tyler look inconsiderate while Sean looks heartbroken. Another version of the same footage could easily make Sean look overreactive and Tyler sympathetic. Which one is true? Viewers cannot know because both versions can be crafted out of the same footage. The larger issue is not whether the quad in Poly Family is happy or not. The issue is that TLC has a long history of exploiting families for ratings. Toddlers and tiaras showed children in revealing costumes. Honey Boo Boo turned poverty into mockery. 19 kids and counting collapsed under. Scandal, John and Kate +8 ended in lawsuits and gag orders. TLC makes millions, while families often deal with trauma contracts, can be airtight, preventing cast members from speaking openly for years. So what you see on screen is not only manipulated but also shielded from outside correction. The children in Poly Family are part of the show too, and that raises more concern. Children cannot consent to having their lives broadcast. They cannot understand how their words or images may live online forever. Family vlogging has already shown us how damaging this can be, as children grow up realizing their childhood was sold as content. Some states are even pushing new laws to protect child reality stars and influencers to make sure they get paid fairly and have control over their digital footprint later in life. So, when viewers take to Reddit or social media accusing members of Poly Family of being predators, narcissists, or villains, we have to pause and ask ourselves, are we reacting to reality or to a carefully crafted edit made to keep us hooked in front of the screen? Because TLC has been in the business of crafting villains and victims for decades, and audiences have been manipulated into outrage again and again. And the saddest part is how easy it is to manipulate when people are sleep-deprived, hungry, stressed, or guided by producers. Reality contestants often say they were given little food, but lots of alcohol. They had no clocks to track time. They were prompted into repeating arguments or inflating emotions, and then the worst moments are captured forever in the edit. Viewers judge cast members harshly without realizing the circumstances were stacked against them. So Poly Family is not just a story about 4 adults sharing a home and raising children. It is also a story about how reality television takes human lives and reshapes them into caricatures for profit. And while we cannot know the truth of what happens in their private lives, we can know one thing for certain: TLC is not a reliable narrator. The network has shown again and again that it values drama over dignity, profit over protection, and spectacle over sincerity. The deeper you go into Poly Family, the clearer it becomes that the drama is not only about the 4 adults, but about how television thrives on shaping conflict and inviting the audience to take sides. The camera lingers on every hesitation, every awkward glance, every sigh. It pushes you to believe that there are cracks in the relationships, even if in real life those moments might have lasted only a second. Maybe Tyler looked away because the sun was in his eyes. Maybe Alicia sighed because she was tired from taking care of children, but once edited into the story, those small human gestures become proof of jealousy, discontent, or betrayal. And the audience begins to speculate in comments and online forums, feeding the cycle of suspicion and judgment. The internet reaction is almost as important as the show itself. Networks like TLC rely on outrage to fuel interest. If you log on to social media during or after an episode, you will see hundreds of comments debating who is lying, who is selfish, who is a victim, and who is manipulative. People do not just watch passively, they participate in the narrative by choosing sides, defending their favorites, and attacking those they dislike. In many ways, the audience becomes another character in the show, and this is exactly what the producers want. Because as long as viewers are arguing, they are engaged. And as long as they are engaged, the ratings climb higher. But think for a moment about the human cost of this. Sean may go to work the next day only to see coworkers whispering about him because of the way he was portrayed. May open her phone and find strangers calling her names. Alicia may read entire threads questioning her ability as a mother, and Tyler may be judged as careless or selfish. Their real reputations are being shaped by an edit they cannot control. And that edit will live online forever. Even when the cameras are gone for older viewers, this hits especially hard because many of them remember a time when television felt more honest, when families on TV were actors playing characters, not real people exposing their private lives. The line between fiction and reality has blurred so deeply that viewers forget they are watching a product carefully. Constructed by producers and editors, when a 65-year-old grandmother watches Poly Family, she might feel outrage, she might feel sadness, she might even feel moral judgment. But what she rarely sees is the machinery behind the scenes shaping those feelings. This lack of awareness is what gives networks their power. What makes the situation even more troubling is how easily emotional manipulation can happen through music. If you watch carefully, you will notice that every time a tense conversation begins, the soundtrack shifts to minor notes, strings, slow drums, heavy bass, all designed to signal conflict to the brain even before anything is said. A smile with cheerful music looks joyful, but a smile with ominous tones looks sinister. Music alone can flip the meaning of a scene entirely, and when older audiences watch, they may not notice this subtle trick. They only know that they feel tense and assume the cast members are guilty of something. This raises a larger question about the ethics of reality television. Should networks be allowed to profit from turning ordinary families into spectacles? Should they have the right to edit people into villains and expose children to millions without long-term protections? Consider how other industries operate. Actors are protected by unions, musicians by contracts, athletes by associations. But reality TV cast members often sign away their rights for a small payment and no protection. Once filming ends, TLC can rerun episodes for years, making money long after the families have moved on, while the families themselves receive nothing except reputational damage. Poly Family also highlights the complicated subject of polyamory, a relationship style that already faces social stigma. Many people watching for the first time may not have met anyone in a polyamorous relationship before. Their entire perception may be shaped by this one show. And if that perception is based on selective editing, it may reinforce stereotypes rather than challenge them. If producers choose to highlight jealousy, fights, and doubts, viewers may walk away believing that polyamory never works, that it is only chaos and heartbreak. But what if the reality of this family is far more stable, far more ordinary than the cameras suggest? What if the happiest moments were left on the cutting room floor? Because happiness does not bring ratings. The result is that instead of educating or broadening minds, the show risks deepening prejudice. Older viewers, especially those unfamiliar with new relationship structures, may become more critical, more judgmental, rather than more understanding. Television has the power to shape public opinion, and TLC has a track record of shaping it toward mockery. Rather than empathy, we must also talk about money. Reality shows are cheap to produce compared to scripted dramas. There are no expensive actors, no high-end sets, no special effects, just cameras placed in homes and editing suites full of interns. Yet the profits are enormous. Advertisers pay millions for the chance to reach a loyal audience tuning in every week. But how much of that money goes to the families? Very little. Most reality TV participants report being paid a fraction of what the network earns. Some receive only a modest stipend, not enough to justify the level of exposure they face, and certainly not enough to cover the emotional toll. Imagine being Sean opening your phone to thousands of strangers calling you manipulative. Imagine being the accused of breaking a family. Imagine being Alicia judged on your parenting by people who have never met you. Imagine being Tyler laughed at for moments, taken out of context. The money you receive may cover groceries for a month, but the humiliation may last a lifetime. Another thing older viewers often forget is that contracts can silence these families for years. Non-disclosure agreements prevent them from publicly correcting the record. If something is false, they cannot defend themselves if the edit misrepresents their words. They cannot release the original footage. The network holds all the power, and the family is left voiceless. This imbalance of power is why so many scandals surface years later, only after contracts. Expire Poly Family is therefore not just entertainment. It is a mirror reflecting the exploitation at the heart of reality television. It is a reminder that what we see on screen is never the full truth. And yet audiences are encouraged to judge, as if it were the full truth. This constant cycle of judgment, outrage, and speculation is what keeps networks rich, but leaves families broken. The audience must ask themselves, is it worth it to participate in this cycle? Is it right to consume entertainment built on the suffering of real people? And yet, despite all this, viewers keep watching. Because drama is addictive, people love to see conflicts unravel, they love to discuss morality, they love to feel superior to those on screen, and TLC knows this better than anyone. The network packages human pain into digestible weekly episodes, knowing that curiosity and outrage will keep people glued to their screens. The fact that Poly Family involves unconventional relationships only makes the bait stronger because it plays into both fascination and prejudice. But the question lingers, what happens when the cameras stop rolling? What happens to the children who did not choose to be in the spotlight? What happens to the parents when they're private? Struggles are permanently archived online. What happens when employers, friends, and communities judge them, not for who they are, but for who they were edited to be? These are questions TLC does not answer because answering them would threaten the business model, and as long as the business model works, the cycle will continue. The further you look into Poly Family, the more you realize that this show is not only about 4 people, it is also about a system that profits from misunderstanding. The producers know that audiences are curious about relationships that are different. From the traditional image of one man and one woman, they know that curiosity easily turns into judgment, and judgment keeps people talking. But instead of using that curiosity to teach or show respect, the network chooses to amplify every disagreement, every awkward silence, every stumble, because those are the moments that make audiences gasp, and those are the moments that go viral online. Older viewers, especially those who value family as sacred, watch these clips and feel disturbed, and they react strongly in comments on social media. They may even compare what they see to their own marriages, to their own children and grandchildren. And once that emotional connection is made, they are hooked. They cannot look away, even if they are upset. This is the genius and cruelty of reality television. It offers viewers the illusion that they are witnessing the truth, but it is truth filtered through editing machines, truth distorted by production schedules, truth bent into a shape that can sell commercials for cars, cleaning supplies, and prescription drugs. The families themselves become backdrops for advertisements. Their lives are turned into stages on which brands perform. And once you recognize this, you cannot unsee it every time. There is a tense pause before a commercial break. Ask yourself who benefits from that tension. Is it the family or the network? Older audiences often feel protective of children on television and in Poly Family. The presence of kids raises deep concerns. What will it mean for them to grow up knowing that millions of strangers watch their parents fight or cry or struggle? What will it mean for them to search their names online as teenagers, only to find memes, jokes, and harsh judgments written years before they could defend themselves? This is not just about one show. It is about a pattern. Family after family on TLC has experienced this exposure only to face long-lasting effects when the cameras stop filming some children from past TLC. Shows have spoken out years later saying they felt their childhood was stolen, that they were forced to perform for cameras, that their privacy was never respected. Others have said they never saw a penny of the money earned, even though their images were used to sell the show to advertisers. If this is the history of TLC, how can viewers trust that Poly Family will be any different? The cycle of profit and exploitation seems too deeply rooted. Another layer of manipulation comes from how episodes are structured. Notice how every episode begins with a recap of past drama, then teases new tension ahead. It creates the sense that every week is part of a never-ending conflict, even if in reality, life may have been peaceful for days or weeks. Producers. Know that if they show long stretches of normal happiness, people may tune out, so they condense months of footage into a single hour filled with cliffhangers, tears, and arguments. The reality of daily life is erased, replaced with a highlight reel of discord. This brings us back to the concept of frankenbiting. Because once you understand that sentences can be chopped up and rearranged, the entire show becomes suspect. A smile may have been filmed on a different day, a reaction shot may not belong to the argument shown before it. A word may have been stitched together from 3 separate interviews. Once these tricks are used, the authenticity of the story is lost. But audiences are rarely told this openly. They are encouraged to accept the edit as reality. Older viewers, especially those unfamiliar with digital editing, may not realize how powerful these tricks are. They may believe what they hear and see, because in their time, television news felt more trustworthy, and editing was not used so aggressively. This generational trust makes them more vulnerable to manipulation. When they watch Poly Family, they may think they are forming their own opinions, but in reality, those opinions are being guided by producers who carefully control what is shown and what is hidden. There is also the issue of selective morality. Notice how networks highlight some behaviors while ignoring others. A father raising his voice may be shown repeatedly, while another parent's silent resentment is never aired. One partner's mistakes may be exaggerated, while another's are softened. This selective lens creates heroes and villains, even if in reality, everyone is complex with both good and bad moments. The narrative becomes lopsided, and audiences are pushed to feel sympathy for some and anger toward others. In the case of Poly Family, Sean is often framed as the one struggling most, and audiences are encouraged to view him as the outsider, the one not fully accepted into the family. Whether that is true or not, we cannot know. But the way it is presented makes older viewers feel pity for him and anger toward the others. This emotional manipulation is subtle but effective. It ensures that people will return next week to see if justice is served, even though justice on reality television is nothing more than another storyline. This leads us to the long-term consequences. Families who sign up for reality shows often do so, thinking it will be an adventure, a chance to share their story, or maybe even a way to earn some money. But many later regret the decision. The exposure can strain marriages, damage friendships, and invite public scrutiny that never goes away. The internet does not forget episodes live online forever. Clips circulate years after the show ends. Memes are created, reputations are cemented. Once you are edited into a villain or a fool, that image can follow you for life, even if it was never accurate in the first place. What makes this even sadder is that audiences rarely pause to think about these consequences. They focus on the entertainment in front of them without asking what price the family is paying behind the scenes. And yet, if you ask older viewers whether they would want their own children or grandchildren exposed in this way, most would say absolutely not. They would never allow strangers to edit their loved ones into caricatures for money. But when it happens to others, they watch without hesitation, because the connection between entertainment and exploitation is carefully hidden. The network defends itself by saying the family signed contracts they chose to be on television, but this ignores the imbalance of power between billion-dollar corporations and ordinary families desperate for opportunities. A contract may protect the network legally, but does it protect the family emotionally, socially, or financially? Not at all. This is why many critics argue that reality television needs reform, stronger protections for participants, fairer compensation for children, clearer disclosures about editing tricks. Without these reforms, the cycle will repeat show after show. Poly Family is just the latest chapter in a much larger story. A story about how modern entertainment blurs the line between reality and fiction. A story about how families become characters, and characters become commodities, and commodities become profit streams for networks, while real people bear the cost, and viewers must ask themselves, is this what we want entertainment to be? Do we want to feed on the pain and confusion of others? Or do we want television that reflects truth with respect? As Poly Family unfolds episode after episode, it becomes clear that the real story is not just about love or jealousy or family. It is about control. Who controls the footage? Who controls the narrative? Who controls what millions of people believe? And the answer is not the family. It is the network. Every look, every word, every pause is owned by the editors who decide what to keep and what to cut. This is why reality television feels more like theater than truth. It is scripted without a script, rehearsed without rehearsals, staged without admitting. It is a stage older viewers watching at home may remember when families on television were actors on shows like Leave It to Beaver or The Waltons. Back then, everyone knew it was fiction. The Abish laughter was canned, the lessons were written by writers, but Poly Family and other reality shows pretend to be truth. They pretend to invite you into a private home, into a private relationship. But in reality, you are entering a set designed to make you feel emotions, not necessarily to show you truth. This illusion is powerful. It makes you think you are smarter because you are judging real people, not characters, but in truth, you are judging edited versions, carefully crafted for your reaction. Think of the families from past TLC shows. Many ended in scandal or trauma. Marriages destroyed, children, estranged reputations shattered. These are not isolated accidents. They are predictable outcomes of a system that rewards conflict over care, profit over privacy drama, over dignity. Poly Family may look unique because of its theme of polyamory, but the underlying formula is the same. Create curiosity, amplify conflict, build villains, push outrage, and then cash in on the attention. And what about the viewers? What about you watching at home? Every comment you make, every post you share, every moment you spend debating the lives of strangers feeds the machine. It gives the network proof that the formula works. It tells them to keep making more shows, more families, more drama. So the question becomes, do we want to keep being part of this cycle, or do we want something different? Television is a reflection of demand. Networks produce what they know will sell. If outrage sells outrage, will be produced. But if audiences demand honesty, if audiences demand dignity, if audiences refuse to reward exploitation, then the formula must change. Poly Family should make us pause, not only to think about the 4 adults and the children involved, but also to think about ourselves. Why do we watch? Why do we believe? Why do we judge? What do we gain from investing so much energy in people we have never met? Is it entertainment, or is it distraction? Is it curiosity, or is it cruelty? And most of all, if the cameras were turned on our own families, would we want our hardest days, our private struggles, our mistakes and arguments edited into episodes for the world to consume? The honest answer for most people is no, we would not. And that realization should change the way we look at others who are put in that position. The truth is that TLC is not telling us stories to understand families. It is telling us stories to keep us hooked. The network has mastered the art of creating villains and victims, of packaging lives into content, and of turning pain into profit. Poly Family is only the latest example, but it will not be the last. Unless audiences start asking harder questions, the cycle will continue. New families will step in, old families will fade away, and the machine will keep running, because money is stronger than morality in the world of television. And yet, there is still power in awareness. If older viewers begin to recognize the tricks, if they begin to question the edits, if they begin to talk not about the characters, but about the production behind them, then the cycle weakens. The more we understand, the less we can be manipulated. The more we see the machinery, the less we can be fooled. So perhaps the most important thing Poly Family gives us is not entertainment, but an education. An education in how easily perception can be shaped, how easily trust can be broken, how easily lives can be rewritten for profit. The ending of this story is not about whether the quad stays together or breaks apart. It is about whether we as viewers learn to see beyond the edit, to question the narrative, to protect families, especially children, from being consumed by an industry that shows little care for their future and the Final question is simple when the credits roll and the screen goes dark. Do we feel entertained or do we feel complicit? Because the answer to that question will decide what kind of television we get tomorrow, and whether families like those in Poly Family will continue to be turned into stories for strangers or finally be left to live their lives away from the cameras. At the end of the day, Hollywood isn't just about glamour and red carpets. It's about power, secrets, and the scandals that often stay hidden until the truth forces its way into the spotlight. Whether it's courtroom drama, relationship, chaos, or behind-the-scenes deals, one thing is certain: the story never ends here, and as always, we'll be watching, digging, and uncovering the pieces others try to keep buried.